Okay, so just a little bit of housekeeping. If you can mute your microphone during the presentations, that would be great, just for background noise and distractions and those kind of things. Feel free to ask any questions by raising your hand or by using the chat, and we'll be monitoring the chat box and keep an eye on that. The agenda for today, we've kicked off at 10:30 and said hello. Next, there'll be a quick introduction to Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps and the new programme and what's available for youth participation, what options are available to you for youth participation in those programmes. At 10:50, we'll look at participation in practice, and Dermot will run you through some exciting new developments from NYCI. Then we'll have a Q&A, and where you can ask us any of your burning questions that you have. We'll stay on for questions. And then we'll finish up at 11:30 sharp. So just to start off, what is Erasmus Plus? It's the EU programme that supports education, training, youth and sports in Europe. And we have a new programme now that's running from 2021 to 2027. So there are new key priorities in the new programme, and they are inclusion and diversity, sustainability, environment and climate change, digital transformations, and why we're all here today, active participation. So that's one of the reasons why we have such a focus on youth participation today. It's one of the new key priorities under the programme. So we're here from Léargas, and in case you don't know, Léargas is the National Agency for Adult Education, School Education, Vocational Education, Training and Youth in Ireland. And the new programme's budget is 26.2 billion. So hopefully this will be money well spent going into great projects and engaging young people in youth participation all across Europe. Under Erasmus Plus Youth, there are two key actions for the field of youth, Key Action 1 and Key Action 2. Under Key Action 1, there's mobility projects for youth workers. So these are opportunities for youth workers to engage in seminars, training courses, networking and community building, study visits or job shadowing abroad. So these are ways that youth workers can upskill and come back with new skills, tools and methodologies to engage young people in youth participation. But also, if you're interested in youth participation, we have under Key Action 1 youth exchanges and youth participation activities, which I'll speak to you a little bit about in a moment. Under Key Action 2, we have cooperation partnerships and small scale partnerships. So these are bigger projects with bigger budgets that are slightly more complex. We won't speak about these today, but if you're interested in learning more about partnership projects, you can attend some of our many events that are on during the year. So keep an eye out on the Léargas calendar. So what exactly are youth exchanges? It's when groups of young people from 2 or more different countries come together. They're implementing non-formal learning program on a topic of their interest. So youth exchanges should be really youth-led. It should be really coming from the needs of the young people and the interests of the young people. With a youth exchange, a preparatory visit is also funded. So you can visit the receiving country before the activity, and we'd really recommend that you do a prep visit in the receiving country to ensure high quality activities and to assist in partnership relation building. Funding for youth exchanges includes travel support, organisational support and inclusion support. And you can find out more about the funding structures at further discovery days and project labs run by Léargas. So what we're here to talk about today as well are youth participation activities. So these come under the new programme under Key Action 1. And these activities can include workshops, debates, role plays, simulations, use of digital tools, awareness raising campaigns, training, meetings, and other forms of online or offline interactions between young people, decision makers, such as consultations or information events. So it's really, really flexible. There's so much that you can do under youth participation activities. These activities can be online or offline, so it's something you can be starting now and getting into even in the context of COVID. They can be transnational or national. And youth organisations or informal groups of young people can run youth participation activities. So in the case of informal groups of young people, one person applies on behalf of the group and they can get funding for coaching support. So the activities must have a demonstrated European dimension, and the maximum grant amount is 60,000. So there's a lot of potential there with youth participation activities. Why engage in Erasmus Plus? It's really the opportunities it affords. There's opportunities for young people to build friendships and networks, develop and strengthen competencies, exchange ideas and experiences. There's really the intercultural dimension and the intercultural awareness and experiences it brings. It's developing a sense of a European identity, and it's getting outside of your bubble and really broadening your horizons. For young people, it's having their voice heard on issues that affect them, and it's a vehicle to support quality youth work outcomes. The impact on young people has been strongly demonstrated within our RAY research. Research across 31 countries involving over 23,000 participants. So for example, 94% said that taking part in Erasmus Plus improved their ability to cooperate in a team. 88% felt they were more or better able to relate to people who were different to them, and 87% felt more confident. So these are great results, and this is what we want to see for young people coming out of the Erasmus Plus program. So you'd like to learn more about youth exchanges or youth participation projects or youth worker mobilities. We have 4 steps that you can take on the way to your application. You can join us at a Discovery Day to find out more information about the program and about the European Solidarity Program as well, to see what the differences are, what the opportunities are, and just get introduced. Next, you can attend a Léargas project lab, and this is a space to develop your project idea and to give you more details and insight into the quality criteria required when applying. After that, you can attend an application clinic, and this will address the budget and finance queries and take a look at the application form and the practicalities around that. And finally, you can attend a Léargas event called an open house, which is a drop-in troubleshooting space where we're on hand to support you in any queries you might have before submitting your application. So there's a lot of support there for you. Take it and come join us on the path and the journey towards an Erasmus Plus application. I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Pia from Léargas, who's going to talk you very briefly through the opportunities available in the European Solidarity Corps.
Thanks, Ruth. And just to mention as well that I coordinate the youth participation activities in Léargas. So if anybody has any questions after today, feel free to just give me a call or send me an email. I'm in contact with a lot of you anyway, but just if you have any other follow-up questions. So just to give you an overview of the European Solidarity Corps, and this comes with a health warning because I don't work on the European Solidarity Corps, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of the structure. It's also a new program in the sense that it was relaunched in just a couple of days ago, and the budget attached to the European Solidarity Corps for the next 7 years is over €1 billion, which is really positive news. It's really grown over the last number of years. As some of you will be familiar with, there are kind of 2 strands under the European Solidarity Corps. So one is the volunteering strand and one are the solidarity projects. And under the new program, there's also going to be a strand called humanitarian aid. So it's going to afford opportunities for young people to become involved in EU aid missions and to volunteer in those and to be supported by organizations in that regard. So as you'll see from this graph here, in order to become involved in volunteering, your organization needs to have a quality label. And this is basically a certification process that certifies that the organization is able to carry out high quality solidarity activities and that your work is in line with the objectives and requirements of the European Solidarity Corps program. The good news is that for solidarity projects, you don't need a quality label, and they're a little bit similar to the youth participation activities that Ruth was talking about, except the age group slightly differs. So under Erasmus Plus, for the youth participation activities, it's for young people from the age of 13 to 30, whereas the solidarity projects are more geared at an older age cohort, starting from the age of 18 and running up to the age of 30. So in terms of the volunteering then, for those of you who aren't familiar, the volunteering strand under the Solidarity Corps allows for both individual and team volunteering. So for teams, this can be groups of 10 to 40 participants carrying out volunteering projects. And the duration normally for team volunteering is 2 weeks to 2 months, or for individuals, it's 2 months to 12 months. And what's really positive is that these volunteering activities can be carried out cross-border for individuals and teams, or you can do in-country volunteering as an individual as well. So I think that's really important to remember, and particularly in times of COVID, that you can also really engage in European programs at a very local level and bring that kind of, I suppose, support youth participation at a very, very local level and still have that European dimension. And then in terms of the supports that are available for volunteering, that includes pocket money, so a stipend, linguistic supports, travel and food and accommodation, and also health insurance. And for young people with fewer opportunities, or it might be their first experience engaging in something like this, they can also go on shorter volunteering stints from 2 weeks to 2 months. Then if we move on to the solidarity projects, these really then are projects that are initiated, developed and implemented by a group of young people. So participation is really at front and center of these types of projects. It's really about handing over the initiative to young people and for them to develop projects and ideas within their own local community on issues that are important to them and on changes that they want to achieve in their own community. Again, the European dimension is still a central part of that, but there are lots of ways that you can link out to the European dimension at a very local level. So even in terms of the kinds of issues that you want to address, I think that, once the young people kind of start working on these types of projects, it becomes very clear often that these are issues that are affecting young people all over Europe, and that, if anything, increases the solidarity that these projects are, kind of bring to the fore. As I mentioned, you don't need a quality label to apply. So it's, in a sense, it's a little bit more straightforward to become involved in these projects. And for solidarity projects, if it is a group of young people applying, it's a minimum group of 5 young people. And again, they can apply for coaching supports. That can also be somebody from within their organization to support them to carry out their project. And the projects are normally 2 months to 12 months, so they're quite short in duration, and again, can be a nice way to dip your toe into European projects and to just get you started without taking on too much, maybe. And these activities happen in country. So again, as I said, can happen at a really local level. There are numerous different supports that are available for organizations and for the groups, like I said, such as coaching costs and a number of other things like organizational support, travel, etc. And also inclusion supports if there are people involved in the project, if there are young people who require additional supports. The average grant normally for these kinds of projects are around €8,000, but that really depends, again, on the length of the project and what the young people want to do. So just moving on then. So again, we have this kind of 5 steps into the Solidarity Core. As Ruth said before, we run discovery days and project labs to help you develop any project ideas that you might have. Then you can attend, if you're interested in the volunteering strand, you can attend one of our quality label hubs where we help you fill out an application to get your quality label. And then the application clinics and open house, as with Erasmus Plus. And for the young people themselves, because they can also register themselves to volunteer on the EU Youth Portal, or obviously if they want to run their own solidarity project, this is really it's their own initiative. It's something that they're leading out on. So we run workshops called Be the Spark, Be the Change, where young people can come along and they can develop their project ideas. And these are run on a regular basis throughout the year. So you can check out our calendar online, or also our social media pages. And then just to speak very briefly about Youthpass. Many of you will be familiar with Youthpass already, but obviously Youthpass is a tool to document and recognize the learning outcomes from youth work and solidarity activities. So anybody who takes part in an Erasmus Plus project or a European Solidarity Corps project under the youth field can avail of this Youthpass. And it's a really good way for young people and youth workers and youth leaders also to, I suppose, recognize and to document the competences that they've gained as part of these projects, and can also can be used, some young people use it on their CVs and can really, be of benefit in that regard also. And then just lastly, these are our 2021 deadlines. So the new programs have just launched, hot off the press, and we're in with a bang. The first deadline is the 11th of May. That is for youth worker mobilities, youth exchanges, and youth participation activities. And then the other deadlines are for the Key Action 2 projects, and we have another set of deadlines in October, and also then for the European Solidarity Corps. Just to let you know that the quality label applications, they're accepted on a rolling basis, so there is no deadline as such. But the grant application deadlines for this year are at the end of May and at the beginning of October. So that's just a whistle-stop tour of the new program and some of the activities that are particularly relevant for youth participation. And just to give you an idea of a solidarity project, I wanted to show you very quickly a short video that is being done by a project called The Cabin in Cork. And it's been identified as a good practice example. And it's really quite inspirational. So it's just a 1-minute video, and it gives you an idea of all the different kinds of things that are possible under solidarity projects. So I'll just share my screen there, Ruth.
That's the way we do it. Get you jumping just like gymnastics. Make everybody feel fantastic. That's the way we do it, do it. That's the way we do it. I'm not listening. Do it my way, my way, my way. I'm not listening to you. With coming here then, I made loads of friends and it's kind of brought me out of my shell. So being up here in the cabin has been like really nice, you know, to have a second family that I can come to whenever I need help.
We offer a place that they can relax, record, make beats and hang out with friends and just get creative. One last time, energy, 1, 2, 3, go!
I'm really kicking in, everything is bothering me. Most of the songs written in the cabin by the young adults and the teenagers have all a background of mental health involved in them. Because it's a big topic, it's a big issue, like, so there's never any judgment. I do, I'm not listening to you.
So that just gives you an idea. I think it's a really nice example of really creative space that's been facilitated through the Solidarity projects. So as Ruth said, under these projects and under the youth participation projects as well, the world is your oyster really, and particularly now under the new program that informal groups of young people can apply as well. I think it's a really, really welcome development in the program. And also you might have noticed, for those of you who have done Key Action 3 projects under the old program, the budget has also increased slightly. So now the maximum grant is €60,000 as opposed to 50 under the old program. So that's it for me. So at this stage, I think we'll hand over to Dermot, who will speak to you about the long-awaited tool on youth participation. So thanks, Dermot.
Thanks a million, Pia. It's I'm buzzing there, looking at reminiscing about the rappers in my youth work life, and the new program as well looks amazing. Like, and there's the anticipation for the rollout of that is well worth kind of building our energy about the potential for the programs. And already I'm kind of seeing from your presentation where what I'm going to talk about kind of very much links in more than I even thought before I saw what you had said. So just to give you a flavour who I am, I'm Dermot. I'm from the youth work world. I'm not going to explain where I live in that world because I'm like a chameleon. I have so many different identities, but all of them are related to youth work and young people and working with those who work with young people. But today, and I'd also say that like where I am in my career as a youth worker and a trainer is so much linked to what Léargas has done through all the probably 3, maybe 4 different iterations of Erasmus Plus down through the years. I can really see in the thread of my youth work career and development where linking in with European projects, well, for my own professional development and also for the young people I worked with, has benefited so much. So I'm 100% an advocate and that I wasn't even asked or paid to kind of say that, but I genuinely would attribute so much of my the youth work successes to opportunities in Erasmus Plus through Léargas. But today I'm going to introduce you to, I mean, when we think about participation, we know that it kind of ranges across from young people just like having a say in what's going on for them and with them. And all good youth work practice includes that dimension. And then I suppose you also can bring it to a point where young people want to be like reaching into spaces where decisions are being made that will impact on them. And spaces at the highest level, whether it's the European Parliament or Dáil in Ireland, young people are feeling and demanding in some instances that they should have a say in those spaces. And what I want to do is introduce you to a bit of a story about the Young Voices work that I do with the National Youth Council of Ireland and what has emerged from that. And it's been a really organic process. And what I would say is that the work of Young Voices is very much linked to EU Youth Dialogue, which was previously known as EU Structured Dialogue. And that's a very kind of concrete process where young people and decision makers share spaces to talk about issues that impact and what to do about them. And all of the work of Young Voices since its inception has been very much linked to Key Action 3 stuff through Léargas, which gives us the platform and the opportunities to gather with young people and pursue projects in parallel with whatever the conversations we're having about the topic in the EU Youth Dialogue process. So Young Voices has been working for, I think, since about 2013 at this stage, and it kind of has this open door policy of inviting young people into spaces where they can talk about particular issues. And what I'm going to share with you today is something that has emerged from our work, whereby there was one point in the journey of Young Voices where they decided to define themselves and create a mission statement. And that really kind of framed the work of Young Voices as they tackled all these issues, whether it's kind of from the video, their mental health issues or youth employment, racism, discrimination, rural youth. So all the issues that might be out there for young people in their lived realities. The Young Voices movement kind of wanted to kind of contain that within a mission statement. And what I'm going to share with you today is what has emerged from that in terms of a tool that really, like when you were talking about the solidarity project, I just thought like this tool is like the launch pad for potential solidarity projects. But it's very much looking at in youth workspaces where we want to support young people to pursue change making that they decide is of value to them. And the tool is essentially a deck of cards, which will be printed as a physical deck, but today I'm going to show you it in the virtual space. And how it will, I guess, support groups and projects and leaders or youth workers working with young people is that it's going to try to be a tool that provides guidance and inspiration and stimulation and signposting. And the imagination for me when I was developing this was that a group would be together and someone would say, something needs to change in this. I've worked with groups where they, like, for example, waste management is an issue, dumping in rural areas. There's a group in Bray that are looking at a wheelchair ramp because Bray Beach, if anyone's ever been there, is stones, not much sand, a wheelchair ramp to the sea. Or this group that want to work on no hate speech in their community, or how the Gardaí link and work with young people in communities. And all of those kind of ideas of projects are coming from young people who believe something needs to change. And the cards are kind of have emerged as a tool to support the conversations and the preparation for how to pursue that change. So what I'd love you to do before I share my screen is to have a think about your group and any of those issues that have emerged over in recent times for you, or if they had to pick something that they believe needs to change, what might that be? And just carry that in your mind, because it might help you then to connect with the cards as I show them to you. So I'm going to share my screen and give you like a little tour of the card. So it might look a bit chaotic, but it's just to give you a flow and a flavor for the cards, and hopefully when they get printed, everyone will get a deck for themselves. But just to give you a sense of this is the mission statement that was developed by young people within Young Voices. And what's important again for us is that there are different actors there that kind of support the work of Young Voices in terms of the National Youth Council, the Department, Léargas, and the EU. But here's the kind of essence of the Young Voices mission statement: create a better future by empowering young people to influence decision making. So again, that's the core of EU Youth Dialogue and the Youth Strategy. And then there's kind of two big elements to it: connection. So connect young people, communities, and decision makers. And what you see in the graphic is that there should be an ongoing flow of connection between young people, their communities, and decision makers. So that was important for the young people. And then actions are important for their work: make a difference, be involved in change, represent, empower, and connect. So that just gives you a flavor of the mission statement for Young Voices. And what I have here on the Padlet is the cards that we have developed as a youth participation and empowerment deck of cards. And I'm just going to really fly through it with you to give you a flavor of what its potential might be. And hopefully in your imagination, you'll see that for yourself, and you might see how the cards might integrate, or it might spark your own ideas about how you might do participation for change making. So again, we've designed the deck. There's like steps to using the cards. And again, some of the core stuff in that regard is supporting the young people to be deciding on how the cards might work for them, rather than us telling them, here are the cards, here's how we'll use them. And present the deck to the young people and let them be, I guess, the co-architects of their potential. But just to give you a flavor of the sets within the deck. So we've got the connection set, and all the cards relate back to the mission statement. So within the connection set, there is, here's the call to action, I suppose. Think about the importance of connections across these three areas, and use the questions that are relevant to guide your work. So connections with young people, connections with community, and connections with decision makers. So within the connection set, there's 3 cards there for connections with young people. Just to give you an idea, think about the young people who are most impacted by this issue. What is our connection to those young people? Do we know enough about the impacts? So that's kind of just stimulation for the group. So if we're thinking about, we need to talk about no hate speech in our community, and who is impacted by this issue? Are we connected with those? Are they in the group, or are they outside the group? And do we know enough about the impact? So do we need to have conversations about that to be sure what we're working towards in terms of change? And then on some of the cards, there's quotes from young people who've been involved in Young Voices. And again, just to give a shout out, Emer McAnally, who's a graphic artist, designed the cards, and they're really, you can see as well, the visual impact really makes a difference as well. When we think about community, I'll give you an example of one of the community cards. Do we need to connect to the community and hear their views on this issue? How might we do that? So again, sometimes we work on youth issues exclusively with groups of young people, but it's always fascinating for young people to then go out into the community, maybe talk to elders in the community or other stakeholders in the community, and wonder about their views on the issue, because that might support whatever action they might end up taking or pursue. And then connections with decision makers, and that's an important part of this work as well. If you're really pursuing change, one of the cards here, what is our connection to those who have power to do something about this issue? So do we need to talk to organizations in the community that are related to the issue, whether it's mental health or anti-racism, or there's a group wanting to rewild parts of Wicklow that I'm supporting at the moment. So who has a role in that? Who has power? Is it the local authority or the local council? And it's important, again, the cards will kind of shine a light on that as maybe something to consider. So that's the kind of the cards that are associated with the connections part of the deck. And I'll just fly then down to the action part. So with the action sets, it's think about and put in place the plans that will make a difference as you attempt to make positive change. So this is about what action can be taken across these 5 areas. And again, we've got kind of subsets for each of those. This is a good one, again, in terms of connect in the action sets. Make a list of allies and make a plan for how you will connect with them. So who are those who might support this work? And it's relevant to them also outside of our own group. And what will we do? Will we arrange meetings? Will we have Zooms with them? Will we call over to them, write them an email? So building the connections in an action-oriented way could make a positive difference. The next set, the Empower set, is really brilliant, and it's kind of linking in with, it's like leveraging those other structures and entities and kind of documents that give power to what you're doing. So if we look at Bob F, which is the framework for the national framework for working with children and young people in Ireland. So what's in Bob F that relates to what you're doing? So what are the government saying about these issues? And can we use that in our pursuit of change? The SDGs is also there. So if we're pursuing, again, a climate action or mental health or anything that kind of is relevant both locally and globally, how will we relate it to the SDGs? So look at the SDGs, look at the targets within them, and build a relationship. And also the EU youth goals, which are really the anchor now for all the work of EU youth dialogue. And when you go into the youth goals and you find the appropriate goal to the work that you're doing, then it gives leverage and strength to your pursuit of change. Then we have the represent subset, and that's kind of important as well to kind of think about who is this work serving? And how are they represented in your action? So sometimes young people want to, again, pursue an action that is about another group of young people who might be in the community, but not necessarily in their group. If they're I'm working with a group who are looking at youth homelessness, for example. And if the group are working on youth homelessness, but that's not maybe a lived reality amongst the group, then how are those who are the core of the action represented, and how is this work serving them? And that's just really, again, about being mindful. And like another card is about, are you in constant communication with those who will benefit from your action on this issue? So there's that whole principle of doing things with, not just for others. And that's important. And then the last kind of subset here is the change part. And it's really kind of looking at, again, kind of challenging yourself to be clear about what it is and that's in your power to change. So sometimes I know with working with young people on climate issues, they might think it's too big for me. I can't deal with this. I don't know, where do I start even? And yet if a group come together and do a beach cleanup and remove all the plastics from the beach, that's within their power to change something. They might not be able to kind of go and critique national legislation. Maybe they will eventually, but there's something about checking in with what's within your power to change. And how sure are you that your actions can have an impact? And for young people, I find sometimes that they get caught up in kind of just doing visibility about the change that they want. And they kind of then sometimes forget to get involved in actually pursuing actual change, tangible change. And that's about the impact, kind of considering how our actions actually are pursuing an impact. And the very last one is really about the kind of the making a difference part of action. And again, really relating to the work of Léargas and Erasmus Plus, that whole world of dissemination and ensuring that you share the story of your activities so that it does have the potential to inspire others. So again, that, a group of young rappers in a small part of Ireland who are doing positive mental health creativity, if we don't hear the story of that and we don't kind of get an insight or get invited in to see how all that works and what's happening behind the scenes, then we might not be inspired to do something similar or to do something that's relatable, and especially when it's creative and dynamic. And I think that's an important part of the whole process of pursuing change, is that you kind of log the journey. And some of that, again, there's those journeys as individual young people with the Youthpass framework, but also when we're involved in projects that have a kind of a start, a middle, and an end, there's value in keeping track of your activities so that there is a record of your progress. So where we started, where we ended up, what changed along the way, and even logging that is valuable in terms of the story of our work. So that's just giving you a flavor of the cards. I'll stop my share. I hope it made sense to people, and again, there's something that we hope that if the cards are a tool, that people might just take them then and use them in a way that works for your own reality and your own groups. And again, when I look at the potential with the new program and young people forming informal groups where they're deciding themselves, we want to pursue change. And they might have, one of us might end up being a mentor or being a coach or supporting them, but that they get to really own the journey of change that they're pursuing. I think the cards might be an asset in that regard, amongst other things. So what I might do is get Alex to give you a little chance, put you maybe in 3 breakout rooms, or even 2, let's say 2 breakout rooms, and give you a chance maybe to reflect on what you've heard from the cards, but also to share your own examples of good participation, and think about how it might relate to what you've heard in terms of the potential of the new program. But I think it'd be great for people to have a chance now, maybe 6 or 7 minutes, to just chat, share your own examples of good participation throughout your career, most recent or long ago. Maybe see what the potential of the cards might be in your future, and definitely the potential for the new program from what you've heard so far. Is that okay? So you get an offer on your screen to join a breakout room.
Yeah, Sean just wrote that he needs to drop off the call, so.
Cool. I'll go into room 2, so I'll just give an extra.
Ruth, you are muted.
I was just going to ask, should I go into room 1?
There are 4 there and 3 in room 2, so. 3 in room 1 and 3 in room 2, so you can stay here. I can't hear you, Ruth.
Sorry, I'm just saying P is already there, so maybe it's enough Léargas to have like 1 facilitator in each room.
Yeah, I moved you to room 2 if you want to join room 2.
Okay.
Have we lost people in transition from breakouts to now here they come?
Oh no. Sometimes actually when you say leave room, it kicks you out of the meeting.
Oh.
I had that recently. But the hot question is, how do you get your hands on a deck of cards? I think that's what we established.
So yeah, I mean, we actually had a meeting yesterday about it's actually difficult to get cards printed, believe it or not. And because we want them to be high quality, we want them to be durable, we want them to be a certain size, not just normal card size, a little bit bigger, like your Dixit size or tarot card size. So we are in the process of getting some printed in. We want to print them in the EU as well. That's important for us. So we've got a company in the Netherlands who we sourced yesterday who are going to print some samples. I've put the Padlet link in the chat. I don't know if people are able, but there's a kind of a health warning on that because that's my own Padlet, and that's where I also do the brainstorming. But it'll give you a flavor if you really want to get in today, but you might go in someday and it'll be completely changed because but that's where they're living at the moment, and that's what I'm using to kind of show them to others. But I know that if people want to see what some of the other questions were on some of the other cards, you can link into the Padlet there and have a look. But yeah, so in the next while, again, if you've been to this event, maybe it can be a reward, Pia, that people who are here today get a copy of a deck when they're done, so we can keep tabs on who was here today, and I can facilitate that through Pia and Ruth. And we do, like, it is our intention to print as many as we can and get them out across all. Everyone who wants one should be able to get a set, and obviously that will depend on funding and cost and whatever, but we don't want that to be a barrier. But it's great to hear that people see that they have potential, and again in our group as well, potential for all the links with the program in the future. But any questions come out from that I can answer?
I have one. Actually, I thought that was fantastic as well, a stepping stone. But I did notice you got a spelling mistake on one of the last ones you showed us on making a difference. There,
I noticed that when that was the first time I noticed it when it was up on screen. I was like, oh, it was there, wasn't it? Was it there?
Yeah.
The word there?
It's missing an E.
Great shout. Thanks for
Dermot,
that.
I'll let you know that this is not the first time Stuart has pointed out spelling mistakes in a person's presentation. I've been
in the first year.
Old teachers, bad habits.
Fair play. No, it's key. And that's why we kind of we're doing one final pilot when we do a print run. And then and people might have feedback about rephrasing, because we really, really want it to be accessible. We want a group of young people to be able to grab the cards and feel like they can connect with them and that they are accessible and useful. So any other feedback, 100% send it on to me. I'll throw my email in the chat as well. Anything else for anyone?
Or any questions about the new program? I knew we kind of flew through it a little bit. Derva?
No, Ruth suggested doing the discovery day, which is great again, because I'm coming in and it's all new and I'm kind of like going, what am I doing now? Where am I going? Because, you know, it just takes a while, and I'm looking forward to the summer, just literally being able to go back over everything and try and get things in my own head a little bit better. And I know, like, Jer's taken over within the Cork ETB, so he'll be a great sounding board as well once we get chances to meet up with him, and he's got plans for us as well. But it's like we were saying, a little bit overwhelming, but I know there's great support there, and I suppose there's so many opportunities as well. You don't want to start doing everything and then get nothing actually completed, you know. So it's trying to match the people in-house with different ideas that might engage them with the students as well. So the solidarity for us, I know we have 2 people in-house that haven't been involved in European projects, that most definitely this would be something that they would be very willing, I think, to get involved with as well. So it's great, because again, it engages more teachers, and that then encourages a different grouping of students as well to engage. So thank you.
Great. And the solidarity projects they're very accessible. I think, you know, there isn't that very onerous piece of having to get your quality label or anything like that. And they can be really small projects, you know, like 2 months, there's a very particular campaign or a very particular issue that the young people want to work on. So you can kind of make it as big or as small, as well as maybe you have the capacity to do. And it's the same with the youth participation projects as well. They can be anything from 6 months to 2 years. So
I've just got a couple of questions, and they're pretty general. Again, can we get a copy of this recording to share with my colleagues?
Yeah, so all our Webinar Wednesday recordings go up on our YouTube channel, and once it's up there, we can share the link with you.
Perfect, excellent. Secondly, with regard to my project and probably others going forward, what level of advertising of EU Plus is required, and how do we get access to, obviously, symbols, posters and those sorts of things, and even borrowing flags for our events when they come around? Are they possible through Léargas, or is there?
Yeah, so you are expected to brand your events with the Erasmus Plus logo. So all the logos are they're on our website. You can download them.
Right.
I think they're there in different formats.
Okay.
And if you need a flag for one of your events, you can just contact me. And obviously at the moment we're all remote and the flags are in the office, but we do have somebody going in from time to time into the office, so they can post one out to you if you need one.
Perfect, excellent.
Yeah, so it's just to have some visibility, and then obviously if you're doing anything online, like Dermot would have had there during his presentation, just to have the branding at the bottom that shows your funder, you know.
Yeah. Okay, but is there a required level of, advertisements for Erasmus Plus?
just, I mean, that any kind of events that you do, that there is some form of Erasmus Plus branding on them, you
Okay.
know? Yeah.
And thirdly, our original application had a UK group. With Brexit happening now, I'm assuming because ours was funded previously, it's okay. But going forward, what if we have a partner from the UK? Are they considered outside of that now?
So there are different regions. I have to look at the program guide again, but I think the UK have been put in region 14, which basically makes it very difficult to partner with them,
Right.
if not impossible. So yeah, the last that I heard was that any projects that are currently ongoing, like your partners can finish those projects, but going forward, it would be much more difficult. We are at the moment, there are a number of other programs such as Causeway that used to facilitate partnership between the UK and Ireland, which came to an end last year, but we are currently in discussions with departments to try and resurrect the program in some shape or form that would allow some form of partnership, but that's all very unclear at the moment. So before you apply for your next project, I would just double check what the status is again. You can contact us, but to finalize your current project, that should still be possible to finish it off, because you're under the old program,
Okay, and sort of going forward with the idea of a national one, I believe that you are going to fund the North. Is that correct?
So that's for higher education.
Okay, so it doesn't include us.
Yeah, so we don't. That lies with the Higher Education Authority. So I know there was an announcement made, but it's probably a couple of months ago now, that students in higher education institutions that want to go on an Erasmus, that they will be supported through the Irish government to do that. But unfortunately, it's not the case with the rest of the Erasmus program at present anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have to myself. I have to go back into class, but thank you so much and lovely to meet everybody. Take care. See you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Sorry, Dermot, that link, is that live?
Yeah, is it there in the chat? Yeah.
I've got youngvoices@nyci.ie.
Oh,
That's it's the Padlet only went into my group, did it, rather than there's the Padlet link. Sorry.
Perfect.
So that's my email, the Young Voices one. So there's
Thank
the
you.
Padlet. No worries.
Thanks for your presentation, Dermot. It was wonderful.
Thanks a million.
That was very interesting.
Yeah.
Deadly.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thanks to Léargas for facilitating. That's great. And even Alex, tech support. Thank you very much.
no problem.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
So unless there are any other questions.